Let's give it up for our next headlight talk.
I'm Rachit Mathur.
And I'm Payal Shah, and we have been designing enterprise products at IBM for around 3-4 years now.
Wow.
Sounds impressive, right? Until I tell you all that for the entire first year, I absolutely had no idea what we were doing or what we were talking in the technical meetings.
Yeah, and I became a professional nodder. You know what I mean? That that slow, thoughtful nod which says, "Yes, I totally understand what end-to-end encryption means." When what I was thinking was really elementary, if it's hyphenated or not.
Right, that's right. But I think we are not alone in this. In fact, I saw a couple of them nodding here as well, thinking, that's so relatable. Actually, we spoke to tons of designers and we realized that we all follow the exact same pattern. Like, look at this. This is all of us in every technical meeting ever. We jump into these meetings thinking, very confidently thinking, we are going to get this today. We are going to make real notes out of this. And 15 minutes in, we're still good. I'm taking notes. I hear someone say something like API endpoint. I don't know what that means, but I'm still writing, okay?
But then something happens after 30 minutes. Say those notes become a little creative, that API endpoint become something with balance question mark, and all of a sudden we develop our these moves like right, I totally understand kind of cover ups or those thoughtful nods again. And at the end, we are all thinking the same thing. There's definitely going to be a recording of this, right? Right?
Well, usually there isn't. And even if there is, I'm sure you don't have patience to watch it all over again. So, why does this happen? Why does collective brain freeze in middle of these meetings? The thing is, we all are trained to be great designers. We all know our double diamonds, our user journeys, and our design thinking very well. In fact, we have all the good frameworks, the tools, and the methods, and we are armed with design knowledge. There's no doubt about it. But when it comes to explaining something about our actual domain, we often just end up with some mms and ahs, and then if someone asks you, you say that, I know what it means, but I just don't know how to explain it.
That's right. I work in cybersecurity, for example, and no one really told me how to decode it, to design for it, or blockchain beyond something cryptocurrency, or microservices. Is it like apps talking to other apps, probably?
No, wait. I think you can think of microservices probably like Lego blocks, where instead of building a toy, here you're just putting together different services to build a system.
That's a nice way to put it.
So you see what I did there? I used Lego blocks, something that we all used to play with, and it helped me to visualize a technical concept. So I used the characteristics of putting together Legos and connected it to how we can put together these different microservices to build a scalable software system. But the hack here is we often try to understand a new concept by basing it on something that we already know of.
Yeah. Okay, let's try another example. How about I ask you, how does SSO works?
SSO is single sign-on, right? We all know that.
Yeah, right, but well, how does it work? If you were to explain it to your mom, for example, how would you explain that?
Well, I know what it means, but I just don't know how would I explain it.
Okay, look at this, look at it from different perspective. How about I ask you, have you guys seen this sign in with Google button? Yeah, right? I reckon most of the people would know that. It's that white button you see whenever you install that new application, right? What if I tell you SSO or single sign on is just sign in with Google button with added complexities probably. Now, all of a sudden, as I said this, all of you have a movie in your head that as soon as you're going to click on this button, it's going to redirect you to the OG Gmail login page where you're going to put your username and password, and it's going to redirect you back to the original application. And somehow, in this process, you will get the system will get your profile photo and name and logs you in. Now, just by that, you can explain what single sign-on or SSO is to your mom or to your BM. And this is just not a definition, right? This is a cognitive scaffolding. You have imagined the whole flow in your mind, so you can ask intelligent questions like, what if Google is down? Will you be able to sign in or not? Or you can spot problems, like will you be able, what if redirect is not working? Will it need a error page? Or slowly, I think you'll become much more dangerous in those meeting calls, but the good kind of dangerous, where you can spot and call on bullshit whenever someone is overcomplicating some explanations on technical concepts like single sign-on. You already know, it's just sign in with Google with extra stuff. So if developer comes to you and throws some complex stuff to you, you just have to ask the right questions because you have the movie in your head and you can build upon that understanding. But the fact here is, you understood single sign-on for the first time, not through a technical diagram that you had to memorize. It's from the story that you already know. It's from the interaction that you already do.
Now, let's try something else. Let's talk about what a firewall is. And let me tell you, this is a beautiful naming accident that where engineers derive this term literally from a physical architecture. Like in buildings, a firewall literally means a wall that is built between two units to prevent fire from spreading. So it's that simple. So now when someone asks you what a firewall is, you know what it means. And when you think of a firewall for a computer, it's something that blocks the bad stuff. Or even when you think of how the Great Firewall of China, which actually blocks Google. So, why this metaphor works perfectly is because it's a 100-year-old concept that instantly explains the digital one. And you don't need to memorize any or know any technical protocols or technical stuff to understand what a firewall truly means.
All right, so this next layer is really where story listening becomes very powerful. Now you can take these concepts and these analogies you created and stitch them together, and you can make sense of something even bigger. Come out with more edge cases. So now you all know what SSO is, single sign-on. You know what firewall is, it blocks bad stuff. You know that China has blocked Google. That's a real thing. Google it. Um, but when you stitch them all, it comes out with a real but a funny edge case that you might have to design for. That your end user might not be able to sign in via this Google identity provider. So you have to pitch in different solution, like introducing WeChat in the workflow, so that the response gets better. There's no error page, and you accomplish the use case that you want to.
So what we did in these examples is really not simplifying the complex domains, but instead we tried to build this bridge or connection between things we already know of, and slowly while building these bridges, you'll understand that you're going to develop slowly a big web of understanding. So it's basically just using your mental model or your mental mainland and connecting dots to different technical unknown technical territories that you know or that you come across. And that is exactly how you build domain knowledge expertise. It's not by memorization, but through building connections with little packets of information that you already know of.
I keep getting this practical question that where do we start? How to start thinking about this? And the answer is really from anywhere. You just need that spark to think about in this direction. Again, I work in cybersecurity, and in one of those fake notes meeting, someone said castle and mode. Castle and mode in a technical meeting. My eyes were lit. Something finally was relatable to me. And all of a sudden, I found out that interestingly, cybersecurity have been notorious about using a lot of system metaphors to understand stuff, to explain stuff. And castle and mode is a very common one. They use castle to represent all the confidential data that needs to be protected, and they use moat for all the cybersecurity strategies and tools to keep it away from bad guys like Voldemort, right? So slowly, I realized it was more interesting to me that all of a sudden I wasn't thinking of 0101 technical stuff, right? I was thinking about this beautiful Harry Potter castle, this universe that I already know, and this mode, if you remember, all into that universe. And so I played along. If someone tries to explain me what denial of service attacks is, I think about the time when an owl tries to deliver a letter to Harry and Harry is denied access to it. So multiple owls barge in with a lot of letters. That exactly is what denial of service is in layman terms. And now you all know it. Similarly, if someone tries to explain me what authentication or authorization is, I think of that Gryffindor lady who keep asking for password at all these gates, and just made it a whole lot of easier to imagine the complete user flow and how it's gonna be.
Yeah, but if you all haven't watched Harry Potter, then this might not be relatable, but you all get the point, right?
Yeah, but also, watch Harry Potter first. Come on. But slowly, I realized that slowly I was gathering all these different analogies, and that domain knowledge gap that we talked about in the beginning was getting filled as I was making those connections.
That's very interesting. So now let me tell you what happened to me after I started practicing this. For starters, I never walked out of a stakeholder meeting wondering or thinking, what exactly are we solving here? Or what the heck is being built? Or what am I contributing to? And it was more like, I started building these connections or bridging these gaps that I was talking about earlier. And that actually helped me to build my domain knowledge expertise. And naturally, I became the go to person in my team to explain any of these technical concepts. And this was not, and I got better at explaining things because now we had a shared pure language, right? It was not any technical documentation that we had to review for looking at design requirements, but it was more of we created our own world. So it was easier to explain things and understand in my team or between my teammates.
All right, but coming back to how do we do it? How the heck we practice story listening? What are the pointers? And how the heck we get to know what's being built? What do we have to design properly in those meetings without watching those recordings again? But before we jump onto that, I want to clarify that this is not a hardwired methodology or a skill that we want you to take away as something that you have to workshop for your CV. It's not that. It's something we all have been doing all our lives. But consciously, as creative thinkers and designers, if we think through this lens, we can definitely literally get it benefit for our own domain knowledge. And I've seen so many cases where new designers are kind of onboarding to these complex projects, and they got so overwhelmed because the domain itself is so complex for them to understand, even to start designing.
So before, like, let's start with a DIY guide. It's just a very simple step-by-step process thing that we tried for ourselves and we thought might be useful for you guys as well. So start with picking your universe. Think about a world that aligns with your domain and think about a world that you can navigate even when you're drunk. So, like, think about something that you can always explore. You will never get bored exploring. And that's why childhood obsessions like Harry Potter's works the best. So for us, it was Harry Potter. For you, it could be Star Wars or Marvel, or it can also be something like something from your kitchen or hospital or any world that you would like to explore. Get extremely specific. Like having fuzzy metaphors will create fuzzy understanding. So keep asking questions to your stakeholders about what is this exactly like and create those analogies and you're going to get answers. Map out everything. Think about what's a user in your domain, what's the data, what's the processes. Think about all the elements in your domain and try to create patterns by mapping it out. Because just random translations will create confusions. And give a framework to your translation and then make it official. Because, naming it will make it feel more real. Like for us, tech concepts are like medieval stories. And similarly, it can be something else for you. And the best part about this practice is that if you get bored of a metaphor or if a metaphor makes you feel anxious, because it's your own world, you can always switch it. Or, if you are not discovering new insights or new surprises like, that's why this means like that. And if you're not coming across situations like that, then maybe try a different angle. And then until you discover the world of your domain.
But again, we have talked to a lot of designers on our team and the conferences that we usually go to. And mostly the junior designers, people who are just onboarding into enterprise softwares, for example, which are very complex altogether, we get a lot of questions around story listening when we try to explain it. And in a talk like this for 80 minutes, we can't really give you more examples. Um, but I would say there's no one way to make these connections, or there's no one domain it can work in. It can work in any area where you're working on. It just has to do with your current story, your current mental model. And that's why when I have to explain story listening in a story listening way, then I say it's just really mental models for designers. Because there have been mental models for users. There have been system metaphors for developers. If you ask them, they have a lot of metaphors that they use. But designers, to be honest, we have been trying to wing it in those technical meetings in the beginning. So it's abstract. It's an abstract concept, but as you get that spark, you will start thinking in that direction, start making those connections, and follow these some pointers that will help you navigate through. But the only rule here probably is, which is a good one, is that you can choose your own universe, right? Because that's so personalized to you. You can make your own connection, and you don't have to think about it from your end user perspective, right? In this case, end user is you. So mental models, you can base it based upon the stories that you know to understand any complex domain, any unknown domain.
Now, I hope by this time you all have started thinking of the genre of your domain, or at least started thinking of how you'll build connections in that next technical meeting with your stakeholders.
Yeah. Or if not that, at least you'll have a better way to explain your domain when you're talking to non-technical folks or to your mom or to your dad. You'll have a better way to explain it and mark what exactly you are doing as designer.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
And